Thank you for staying with Daybreak. Before we get into the political conversation, hold on one second. Let me show you this reaction coming through from Caroline Oyumbo. Says, morning, Trevor. The budget keeps burdening Kenyans to the extent that people now borrow from Shylocks and mobile lenders that they are even unable to pay. Godfrey Omondi says, the budget is beyond our means. Revenue collection has dropped. People have lost jobs, and realizing such a budget in a country where joblessness is the talk of the day is untenable. All right. Let's switch gears now and talk about politics. So the Azimio One Kenya coalition has moved to stem disquiet among constituent parties members by resolving to be more inclusive in its decision-making. A meeting called after 8 parties raised concerns has also stated that there will be no zoning, allowing even the fringe parties to participate in the elections. Brenda Wanga has more on this.
ODM party leader and the Azimio One Kenya presidential flag bearer-led Raila Odinga's Thursday meeting was necessitated by complaints raised by 8 of the over 20 parties that make up the Azimio alliance. The parties, including Alfred Mutua's Maendeleo Chapchap and Kivutha Kibwana's Muungano Party, amongst others, had complained of several issues, including exclusion from important matters and decisions. Complaints that were still reverberating across town at a meeting called by one of the parties, Alfred Mutua's Maendeleo Chapchap.
So everybody was shortchanged because we just signed a page on the belief that we'll be given the rest of the document because we had been told the contents of the documents. It was explained what is the content, and so we believe that what we are told is the content is the same. So we signed knowing that we'll be given the other one to do a few corrections here and there. But since that time, the document has been denied of us.
These concerns put to rest after the meeting brought together representatives of 11 political parties, at least according to the coalition's spokesman. The Azimio One Kenya team also agreed to address inclusivity concerns that had been raised in a communique by the 8 parties.
It was decided that the top organ of Azimio, which is the Coalition Council, would have 11 members drawn from the constituents, parties. And we thought that that number is inclusive, and that will be able to address this question of inclusion of political parties, whether they are small or large.
The parties had also raised issue with alleged plans to implement zoning in the August elections, saying their candidates had already registered to vie for different seats in the elections. Professor Mutua says they need not fear.
There has not been zoning of the country for any political party. That any political party is free to campaign and to seek votes.
Professor Kivutha Kibwana, who also attended the meeting, says concerns raised by the 8 parties were not meant to cause jitters in the coalition, but to strengthen and rally constituent parties in one unified direction. Sentiments echoed by Charity Ngilu, who says the parties in the coalition are now speaking in one voice with one goal.
These political parties have a contribution to make. They want to belong. They have following in the country, and we don't want to fight with the. We don't want to fight Jubilee. We don't want to fight ODM. We don't want to fight Wiper, because if we do so, then we shall have lost. Our sight will not be on the big picture.
It's not about any of us. It's not about this party or the other party. We came together because we believe that we are like-minded. We did not come together because I want to be this or that. And everybody who has come on board has said, country first.
The Azimio One Kenya meeting also resolved to handle the running mate question through consultation, analysis of data and evidence at the appropriate time. Brenda Wanga, Citizen TV, Nairobi.
All right, Lukosi, let me start with you on this. What's really going on in these parties? And has it always been about the people, or is it just about individual interests when you see such squabbling?
Okay. With the coalitions that are ongoing, what we were looking at is the parties coming together with sharing the same ideology and pushing that ideology together. And it has been a concern to us that in as much as, yes, we are the parties have come together for a certain ideology, but then the issue of zoning, regional zoning, and negotiated democracy, it's like it's giving preference to certain kind of people to specific regions.
Yeah.
So there are some aspirants, especially the young people and the women, who feel left out when it comes to this issue of zoning and negotiated democracy. And it is important that in as much as we are trying, whether Azimio or the other side, the Hustler Nation, in as much as they are really trying to get as many representatives as possible in their respective camps, it is important that they ensure the will of the people prevails.
How do you decide, as a senatorial aspirant, how do you decide that you're the most popular? Because at the end of the day, the coalitions of the parties want highest numbers in the August House. How do you decide, as Faith, that you are the one who's most popular and therefore you need to be given a fair play and a fair chance?
Trevor, the only way to gauge your popularity or your preference, you being a preference for the people, is by having free and fair nominations. So when we are talking about opinion polls, using opinion polls to decide who to give a direct ticket, who are these people that you are reaching out? What criteria are you using for these opinion polls? That is where most aspirants are really concerned. It is important that we really have free, fair, and credible nominations, allow the people to decide who is going to be their representative. Otherwise, these boardroom negotiations are really going to, they are going to cripple the democracy that, say, our fifth president, the incoming Raila Odinga, has been fighting for. So it's just important that we ensure it's the people who are going to decide.
Maliba, what do you make of this issue around nomination and the squabbles that's going around? Because you're going for Dagoretti North MP position. Do you have a direct ticket?
I do not have a direct ticket. I have got 2 competitors. And I am okay. Even as I speak for the party, I'm okay with that. But I would actually love to put this in context. What the other parties actually raised that, but it's important, Trevor, to let you know. I heard you in your scripting say that to allow even fringe parties, there is no such thing as a fringe party. Because if you know and have looked at the Political Parties Act, there is a set threshold that is actually for everybody, that ODM has to meet the same threshold of registration the way DAP would meet, or DP would meet, or even ANC, for example. So there is no fringe party. Out of about the 89 political parties that we have, all those parties are registered under one law. They meet the same standard. So there is no fringe party. And knowing too well how the attrition happens in this particular parliament, no one really can come out and say that this is how things go out. So it was important that you clear out that. But talking about nominations, parties are not coming up with rules that do not exist. Those rules are actually in those laws and nomination rules that we all submitted to ORPP and then were certified and then submitted to IEBC. So if nominations are actually going to be the beginning that makes things go down, like for example what somebody was saying, that if ODM realizes that what watabebeana panga Nyanza, and yet you can talk out and agree, if anyone feels like they are aggrieved, why didn't they move to DAP, for example? You know, like for us in DAP, democratic, the word democracy starts, the Democratic Action Party. In other parties, all other parties you find, except for DP, all other parties, democracy comes huko nyuma. But we are the party where, first of all, democracy comes first and then we follow in with action. So, the squabbles you see around here, I think, is just for people looking for space. And you see how quickly it worked out, because Azimio is a big house. And you do not expect that in a big house, then everything is going to work seamlessly. This is politics and not a German machine where things work seamlessly. And like I said earlier on, the business of politics is serious business, and it's quite difficult because even God had to actually sublet to men. He was around here and he realized that human beings were quite difficult. So those then who preside over the affairs of men have got the blessings of God. So I see the nominations. I've had my sister here speak about boardrooms and everything else. You see, I don't know where people get these things that political parties are clueless. Political parties are not clueless. They actually know. You can actually feel the temperature. And sometimes we simply are wasting resources going down there. Of course, there is the closure. The party primaries in themselves are not very democratic, because you are limiting it to a few people. If you, for example, we in DAP are doing nominations today. Today is a working day. the Nairobi nominations, Garissa and other places. So today is a working day. So how many people who actually support me or support DAP will be available today? Not very many people will be available today. So if we then synonymize democracy with party primaries, we also are getting it wrong, because parties primarily exist to win seats. And if they see that you are not going to win a seat, for example, it will actually be a folly for that particular party to allow you to go to the ballot in the name of democracy. But then I need to actually say this. We've got about 89 political parties that exist. I think about 82 will be fielding candidates. If you feel that you must not run, if you feel like this party is not actually good with you, you have got the option of actually shifting and going to another party. You should have actually done that earlier. Yeah. 2, there's still 10 to 14 days for you to actually run as an independent. So there is room, there is sufficient room. And democracy is not geometrical. Okay. Like, it's not a perfect circle, it's not a rectangle or a triangle. So, as in, these issues are actually fluid. You find ways of how you fit in. So, the next 10 days are actually going to be critical for this election, for the simple reason that sometimes, this is when political parties teach aspirants a little fear of God. Yeah. That's why you hear them sounding the way they sound here, and what you see elsewhere, that you actually could be very close to your party leader, and all of a sudden when nominations are there, the party leader is not picking your call. The officials are not actually available. As we go to nominations, aspirants are learning a little fear of God. Okay.